Let's talk again about whether blogging is getting more competitive or if this is a good time in history to get into blogging. And I saw this post in my own community about that a lot of people might stray away from blogging these days because there's so many Google updates and you hear all these stories of bigger sites just losing a ton of traffic and you see the curves. And I think one of the reasons for this is that many times we only share the news when they are pretty bad, because if your site got more traffic, if nothing really happened, why would you want to talk about it? Maybe you just want to stay under the radar or nothing happened, right? So we always hear these horror stories, and we definitely have had a lot of Google updates recently. Was it like 4 or 5 major updates this year already? So I think there's definitely some truth to it. It will steer some people away from blogging, also because we're heading into a recession now. So there will be a lot of folks who need to focus on their main source of income, who don't have a lot of time just flying around to try and dive into something new like blogging or other side hustles. So what does this mean for the blogging space? I really don't know, but I have some thoughts about it that I want to share because I see two contradictory tendencies, you can say. So one is the one that I just touched on. I think some people will steer away from it and might see less folks getting into blogging these days. But I also see a lot more competition in the space altogether. It's just a little more difficult, as I've mentioned a few times, to find all these underserved topics. So those are two contradictory tendencies. So one other thing to consider is that all the videos people watch today about blogging, they're not done like a month ago. There'll be the bigger videos that YouTube will recommend people, and also the blog posts, they will have had time to rank, so they'll maybe be written like a year ago when it was much more lucrative to get into blogging. So of course, like myself, I have hundreds of videos showing you why this is the best time in history to get into blogging. So that's a content that new bloggers will consume right now. Of course, they'll also hear some of the recent news about Google updates and such. But I think what really draws people in are these stories. So that's something to keep in mind. They'll see all these fantastic numbers, and that of course draws people in. And then we also need to remember that a lot of the folks talking about blogging, such as myself also, we have blogging courses to sell. So we have an incentive to get people started blogging. You know, I try to do my very best to offer you honest advice and not lure you into blogging if I don't think it's the best time in history to do so. So is blogging still a viable option for a solopreneur if you're just one guy or one girl looking to create a blog right now? Or if you started like half a year ago, will you stand a chance in the coming years? There's a few things that I want to address around that, because I do see a lot more competition. I do see a ton more content, and a big majority of this is the AI content. So if you actually dive behind the headline, and you'll see that everything is taken, but if you dive into the content, it's often not that good. So I've definitely seen way more content, but also lower quality. And I think there's still a lot of space in almost any niche. I think if you have good generating content to share with the world, if you know everything about cameras or whatnot, I think you could still get into even something as competitive as that. But you might need more time, and you might need maybe not more content, but just really better content, because you need people to share your stuff, and you might need to rely on other channels in the future than Google. I haven't steered my company into another direction, not yet at least, but I'm gonna test a few things over the next year, I think. A few other traffic channels. So I've always relied almost solely on Google traffic, and back in the day I had some Pinterest traffic, but these days I don't get a lot of traffic from Pinterest. I have a few articles that trend, get like 10,000 of visitors per month, but those are very rare. Those are old pins that all of a sudden just pops up somewhere and gets shared like a ton. So that's not part of my strategy right now, but I could see YouTube becoming part of my bigger sites in the future, to just really start playing a role and develop a strategy for how to get traffic from YouTube to the blog. But it's not something that I'm working actively on right now. So I think I'll put it like this. I still think blogging is a very, very viable business, because a year or two ago it was definitely better, but it was good to the point that it was just crazy good. So let's say you just get a few hundred page views per article. It's still a very good business model. And also if you're looking into a future where you get 100 page views per article, because it might just take another year before you earn your money back with that piece of content, but it doesn't really matter that much in the long haul, I'd say, when we're just talking about whether the business model still works or not. And I actually just started like a major site with a good friend. So he's gonna be producing all this content and I'm just advising him to do it. So yes, I still think it is a very good idea. It's something that I would advise my family and friends to do and that I actively do. But you have to be invested into it. So I think the way forward for new bloggers and also existing bloggers as myself today building up new brands is to do exactly that, build up brands and not just put up a lot of content. It needs to be really good content, and it needs to be something that meets a higher standard than what I see out there right now. Because as I said, there are more content, but it's also just worse quality. There's so much crap out there, not just from the AI writers, but also just content that's been written really quickly, because there's been so much money in blogging recently, and as the RPMs have gone up, of course, they've dipped a little bit in the current recession. I don't know if we're in a full-blown recession, but lately we've seen lower RPMs. So that's the earnings with ads on our site. So ads are earning a little less due to the hard financial times. But I think within a year or two, that just will bounce back, because when we see recessions and we see stuff like this, like worldwide, it always means, I think at least, that more people will go online and more marketing budgets will be moved online, because it's a little harder to ship things and things might work a little more on a local level. And there's just, e-commerce has to be pushed forward. And I don't think we have evened out the level between e-commerce and physical stores. So as we see more and more e-commerce, I definitely think we're looking into at least a few more years where the ad earnings will still go up as more commerce moves online. So that's just my thoughts. But what are your thoughts? Put in the comments what you think about the blogging space right now. How is it in your niche? And do you think it's all getting too competitive? Do you think you need like a large team? I personally don't think so. I think you can still create a new blog with just yourself. And you just need to focus more on it. Spend at least a couple of hours more per week, so you can get at least three or four articles out per week, I'd say, if you can do that, and ensure that the quality is as sky high as you can, because then it will live much longer and get shared more. So those are my thoughts for today. I'll see you guys.